Hey there everybody, welcome to Techie Dad. Today I'm going to take you through how to make a really simple and professional looking HTML horizontal menu. And so we'll mix a little HTML and a little CSS and let's get this done. Follow along. I'm using WebStorm today for my editing, and on the left I have my HTML file, on the right I have an empty CSS file I've yet to add any code to, and let's get started on this. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to start creating my HTML structure. I'm going to start out by making a container, a div with the class of container. The reason I do this is I want a center column to go down the middle of my page. We don't see it right here on my design now, but I'm going to have a box sit right here in the center of my page. The reason I want that to be the parent object is because I'll use its style properties to center things up. And then everything inside of container will be centered up instead of me needing to individually style elements at the lower levels to be centered. So after I have my container, I'm going to put a div in there with a class of menu. This is where we're going to start putting our menu items, and this menu is going to have a logo on the left and navigation items on the right. So let's make another div with a class of menu left. This will hold our logo, and for now I'm going to type the word logo in there. It's a placeholder, so we'll be able to see that it gets laid out in the right place. And I'm going to put one more div here. It's going to be menu right. And this is going to hold our anchor tags that we'll use to put our links in. I'm going to give them a pound sign there just as a placeholder, because then they'll act and look like anchor tags, at least originally, and then we'll go through and remove their text decoration. So menu right, we could say we have a home, and then I'm going to copy. Actually, before I copy, let's make sure we put a class on there. No, I'm going to call it navlink, because we want a reference to the class so we can update all of those anchor tags. Copy and paste that a couple times. Now we'll come up with some other navigation names, something about like about, and let's do contact, maybe details, common names for even blog links if we create our own blog or want to build our own blog website. So now I have my basic structure in place. This is going to show up on the left of my menu when I get finished creating it, and this is going to show up on the right. But up till this point, all I have is HTML, and when I run it, I'm going to get just basic logo stacked on top of my navigation. Nothing's been done to style this page yet. It's just my HTML structure. So let's start making it look nice. First, let's tie it to my CSS file by putting a link. Its relation is a style sheet, and its link to that style sheet is style.css. I love using WebStorm because it autofills that information for me based on the files I already have in my file structure. Okay, now that we have that, we can go ahead and start building out our CSS. So right here from the beginning, I'm going to reference body and HTML just because from a browser standpoint, I kind of need to zero out the browser, meaning I need to clear out some of its default settings that I don't want. And I always default and clear out the padding, margin, and set width 100% just to make sure I've got my bases covered. And that applies to body, which is right here, and HTML, which is right here. That just makes sure we have the right settings before we set the stage for our design. Now, before I move on, I want container to kind of pop up off of the design, so we'll make container a white background, and we'll put a gray background on the body. So we'll add one more rule for body because I don't want it applied necessarily to HTML. We'll do background color. We'll do one of my favorite light gray colors. It's very common for modern designs to use this lighter gray color. All right, so now that my body should show as gray, this is a hex color for gray. I get that, and now you can see I had a little bit of space originally there off the side of my logo, and my links, but now it's gone, and that's good because I don't want any sort of random spacing or padding, because I'm going to set all of my styling right here, individual for the elements. So let's make the design now for the div with the class of container. To reference a class, all I need to do is type dot. It then goes and looks for that container and applies this style. What style do we want to apply on it is width 80%. We're just kind of doing a rough size. You can go through and adjust. That just kind of gives me a general area. It's also kind of nice to do a percentage, because then when we fold the page in and out, it will adjust kind of nicely with varying screen sizes, or if somebody needs to shrink the screen to get another window on their page. So width 80%, we're going to say background color. We'll do a white. We'll do a quick border radius on this just to kind of make it look a little bit nicer. Border radius will round the corners. If I do a 3 or 4, most modern web designs today won't go beyond 4 because they're subtle corners. Some even go as low as 2 to make them almost look squarish. But usually they don't go beyond 5 or 6, at least on more modern websites today. In fact, a lot of the styles have gone back to making a lot of our boxes square again. So I've got container, and that's all set up now. And inside of container is my menu. So let's do that one next. Up until this point, menu hasn't taken on any style other than the fact that it is inside of container. So what we should see is our white container from our container CSS sitting inside of our body. And there's one more thing we're going to want to do with container, and that is center it up on the page. So let's do that now. We'll do margin 0. Actually, let's set that to more like 25 pixels. 25 right here is our first number. It's going to be top and bottom. And auto is going to center our left and right sides. So it will bring it down off the top 25 pixels and leave a 25 pixel off the bottom. If there was something up against it, you would see that. And auto is just giving us equal spacings off the left and right side. So now I hit refresh, and I get my page all lined up just how I like it. Now, we want to adjust our menu, because as we just looked at, our menu is kind of just sitting on top of itself. We want our logo to sit over here on the left, and we want these navigation items to sit over here on the right. So let's go ahead and make adjustments for that. We're going to use Display Flex. Display Flex is one of the most amazing CSS properties as of late. It does so much for us. It gets us out of using CSS floats that before caused us a lot more work. So Display Flex, what it will do is it'll take those elements and first of all lay them in line. Because the original and default direction for Flex is Flex Row, what this will do is put them right in line off the bat. And this is great for our layout. It's exactly what we want. Now, I can get them to sit left and right by saying justify content, space between. Space between will put them clear out to the outer edges of its parent. And I want this guy to be additionally a width 100% because I want the menu to go to the full width of its parent container. Now we get logo left and nav links on the right. Now it doesn't look really all that great because we want some spacing around those two things. So let's do one more thing. Let's go ahead and add some padding to our menu right and our menu left. There's a couple different ways we could do this. We could potentially even add a height to our element and center these up vertically and then make adjustments for menu left and menu right. One way to do it is to add padding on our menu. The downside is that because we've set width 100%, we're going to get 100% width plus padding, like if we set 15 pixels as padding. So let's do that, and I want to show you what's going to happen. I'm going to hit padding, 15 pixels. When I do that, it's great, except for, look at this, my links are hanging off the right-hand side. To adjust for that, there's a number of things I could do. I could put the padding in different places, but we're going to use just a simple calc that is from CSS3. I'm going to say this calc is making the parent 100% subtract 30 pixels. And it's 30 pixels because 15 is getting placed on the left and the right of our menu. So 15 plus 15 is 30. If we didn't compensate for all 30, we would still get that navigation outside of our white box. So now, if we try that out, we should get our navigation back inside of the container box. Now let's just clean up these links just a bit. I want to talk to my menu right anchor tag. I can reference the class to my menu right, and then I can straight up reference the HTML tag without additional symbols. So let's give them some padding on the left hand side. Well, I'll just make it 15 pixels. That's going to give us a space in between them. And I'm going to move text decoration to none because that's just that underline we get on all those elements. We want to get rid of that underline. So let's go take a look. The reason I did padding left was because I want to push these navigation links this way. If I had chosen right, this one would push this an additional 15 pixels, and we wouldn't have the same gap here as we do on this side, and we want those to stay the same. And that is our navigation. We got ourselves an HTML horizontal menu built with our HTML code and some simple CSS, and you're already off to making a great website. Now from here, what I'd recommend doing is maybe using some icons for the logo and cleaning these up with better Google fonts that don't point to the original Times New Roman that our browser points to by default for its font. And we have a professional looking menu. Hey, hope you liked that tutorial walking you through a little bit of HTML and CSS. If you want to see more, I also recommend checking out my website at techudad.com. I've made it available so that you can go there to my website and see the tutorials and download the code. Right here on my website, techudad.com, if you want to just come right down here to my coding tutorials, click that link, and you'll get a page full of my latest and greatest HTML and CSS and even some JavaScript tutorials. And I even give you the option to download the code in case I went a little too fast or you just want to compare notes or just have the code. I hope you enjoy. Again, follow along on YouTube and subscribe.